Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just request you to give a hand applause for the panel, which is the power pack here, to welcome them after the lunch. I think now you are charged up. Thank you. The topic is very, very crucial for us to look at it. The aspiration of the Viksit Bharat to 2047 of a $30 trillion economy. Looking at a small milestone of 2030 to reach to our $8 trillion economy in India. And if we want to reach that stage where we are today, yes, we are more than $4 trillion economy. We are the fourth largest. Very soon we'll become the third largest. I'm expecting maybe this year or next year we'll do that. I hopefully, fingers crossed. And we should be the third largest economy in the world. This third largest economy will reach to us close to around $5 trillion economy, between 4.8 and 5. I'm looking at how do we reach to $8 trillion economy and what is that we need to do. Now friends, in last 15 years, the GDP has grown 15 times. If it has grown 15 times, can it go much more faster onto this? And technology has plays a very important role while giving the information about the GDP's new wave of growth. Examples, look at the way the unicorns have started contributing to the economy, both from the GDP as well as from the employment perspective. And if this is a journey that looking at, I have a very great panel with me who are the world leaders. Mr. Claude with me from Samajda and Samajda. Welcome you, Mr. Claude. We have Mr. Mohandas Pai. Everybody knows. He's also a personal mentor to me as well. Mr. Mohandas Pai ji, warm welcome to you here. Mr. Madan Padaki, serial entrepreneur as well as the TAI president, TAI global board member as well. Welcome you, Mr. Madan. And Mr. Kumar, the great investor. Mr. Kumar, welcome you here with us. Friend, the way I want to take up the session is that we'll have a short one question to each of them and we request them to elaborate on this. And then we'll have a session with you in terms of your questions and things that you want to ask. And then there will be a small supplementary questions at the last. So we divide this panel discussion into three different levels. The important questions that are coming up in the thought is that can really the technology-driven growth give us $8 trillion? Question mark. Maybe answer is yes. Maybe answer is something yes, and plus, plus. I want to have this question with them. The second is when technology comes into play, employment becomes the question mark. And whereas we are looking at creating millions of jobs in the country, is this going to be a challenge or is it going to be an answer or is it going to be new elements? Let's look at those answers from the great leaders. And the third one is, can our own economy, which is looking inward or outward, that means, are we looking at domestic market or are we looking at international delivery market, right? So if that's the case, then I would like to position these questions to all of you in one by one. And may I request first question to Mr. Mohandas Pai ji. Sir, how to combine technology-driven approach in the growth of the GDP, which requires less manpower involvement, with the need of producing millions of new jobs needed to be absorbed in the cohort which is entering the job market in India. There are small dichotomy there. How do we address this? And so I repeat, the technology-driven growth, yes, how? What can contribute? The second would be, if it is so, do you think that the millions of jobs that we need to create will be in the real stuff or there will be a challenge on that? Sir, over to you.
Thanks, Sanjeev. First, let me give you some data so that all of us are on the same page. There's a lot of confusion in many people's mind about what is happening. Today, we are a $3.94 trillion economy in nominal terms. In PPP, we are $17.5 trillion, the third largest in the world. The largest is China with 39, the United States 32, and India with 17.5 trillion. Our per capita income in PPP is about $12,300. It's a very large economy. How have we done in the past? 1950 to 80, we grew at 3.5%, population grew at 2.5%, per capita income grew 1%. That's because the first Prime Minister was educated in England in Harrow and Cambridge. They're all contaminated by the Fabian School of Economics, socialism. He brought in what is called the license quota Raj, controls, suppressed private capital. We did not grow. In 1950, we are the largest economy in Asia. Great Britain owed us 1.5 billion pounds for the war effort. We had 2.5 million Indians fighting for their lives. China was destroyed in the war, Japan, Southeast Asia, and we were very big that time. Everything was intact. But he brought in socialism, ruined the economy, and we did not grow. The world grew 4.5% a year, 1950 to 80, and Asia grew at 6.5%. We became poorer in 80 compared to 90. It's important to understand all this. In 80, we opened up. We grew at 5.5%, 80 to 90. Debt grew from 20 billion to 80 billion. We were broke in 1991. We had $5 billion of reserves, 15 days imports. We opened up because we had nowhere else to go. We hogged our gold, got in $450 million from the Bank of England. We just got the gold back because it still kept it there. We're not sure what happens to Bank of England with that gold. Thank God we got it back. And we managed and opened up. Then the magic started. Because India has been a free market economy throughout our history. It's been the richest country in the world from the dawn of civilization till 1750, where China, India made up 45% of world GDP. The British came and looted this country, and between 1750 to 1947, they took away $45 trillion of wealth from India. In current year terms, read that monogram by Utsa Patnaik of Columbia University, who explained it beautifully. So we've been a rich country, and we have been impoverished, and we impoverished ourselves by bad policies. When we opened up in 91, we had $275 billion. We grew 3.94. We grew 8.1% a year, every year for 34 years. So we've grown at 8.1% for 34 years, every year. Our GDP in rupees grew by 12.2%, 5,32,000 crores to 331 lakh crores. The difference between the rupee and the dollar has been the difference in inflation and the fact that we have a large current account deficit, a trade deficit. So a growth in rupees did translate into equivalent growth in dollars. Today we are the second largest manufacturer of steel, second largest manufacturer of cement after China, the largest manufacturer of two-wheelers, third largest manufacturer of four-wheelers, third largest electricity producer, and the second largest mobile phone manufacturer and consumer, second largest food grain producer, the second largest fruit and vegetables producer at 350 million tons, largest milk producer, largest spice. In every facet, we are the second or third largest. So it's a very large economy. The prices are low. Let's understand that very well. So what are the challenges we face? The first challenge we face is that we have a trade deficit in 2025 March. We had a deficit in goods of $285 billion. In services, we had a surplus of $215 billion. And the trade deficit was $70 billion, which had to be filled in by capital flows from outside. Okay? But the good news is, services surplus is growing at 15% or maybe 12-13% a year. In the next 3 years, we hope the surplus in services will match the goods deficit in goods. Why does the deficit in goods come? Because we have a net deficit in oil. We import $170 billion of oil, export $50-60 billion, $120 billion is net. We import about $85-90 billion of electronics, export $30 billion of electronics. Naidu wrote that report, what to do. And then there's a gap, and we import $65 billion of gold. We have about 30,000 tons of gold worth $2.5 trillion. Okay? And this is what is causing the problem. In services, we export $235 billion of software, the largest in the world, 60% of global outsourcing. We get $165 billion of cash coming in. We have $125 billion of remittances, and thus growing in low double digits. And if that comes, the rupee growth translates into dollar growth. And that's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years. It will solve one very fundamental problem of India about a large deficit in goods. And why do you have a large deficit in goods? Because of oil, because of electronics now, because we import a lot of gold. We are not able to export because our capitalists make a lot of money. Pre-tax profit of the corporate sector in India is 15% of GDP. I don't think any other country is there where pre-tax profits are 15% of GDP. Because we don't have enough competition, we protect them and they make money. In the two-wheeler industry, one company earns 23% operating margin. Is unheard of. All right? So that is the status today. Now, the question comes, can we grow? To grow, you need two things. Increase in consumption, increase in investment. We invest $1.2 trillion of capex a year. Last year, 98 lakh crores, 94 lakh crores. We have a savings rate of 29% of GDP and an investment rate of 31% of GDP. We have 2% gap which we raise as capital from outside. We have $685 billion of reserves. All right. And we have only $750 billion of overseas borrowing for the country, $114 billion for the government. All right. So we invest enough. Can we invest more? We can invest more, but we don't have the absorption capacity. To invest, you got to execute. All our infrastructure projects are 2 or 3 years behind because the companies are too small. China has got 10 companies the size of L&T. We got 1 L&T. We can't execute. All our projects are behind, but we are mumbling along and we're investing huge amounts of money. Consumption is growing at 7% a year. Out of 70%, which is the balance after the investment of 31%, 10% is government spending, 60% is consumer spending, and that is going up. So we have an ICOR, incremental capital output ratio of 4. It requires 4 units of capital for 1 unit of growth. So you invest 31%, we can grow 7.5%. So grow 7.5% is not going to be difficult. And we'll have inflation of 3.5%. We could grow at maybe 10 to 11% in nominal terms. And if that translates into dollar, we'll see this growth. That's what happened to China. Because China for 30 years kept the currency at 7.2 yuan to the dollar. And they did it very well. The secret did it very well because they suppressed local wages and exported their way out and did a fantastic job. So now we have the wherewithal for growth and we can grow. So we can grow very well. Now, are we creating enough jobs? The good news is our fertility is 2.0. Population is growing at 0.8%. We have 130 million people above the age of 60. By 2030, we'll have 200 million people above the age of 60. And we have an aging problem and not a problem of a galloping population. We are beyond that. Fertility across India is 2.0 and the whole of the south is 1.7. Even in Bihar it's come to 2.9, it's coming down. And today we produce 23 million babies a year. 3 years back we had 25 million babies. For 30 years you produce 25 million babies. Now the number of babies being produced are going to come down year by year. And we'll max out in population because people are living longer. Not that we're having more children, and I think that problem is also solved. And in terms of education, 265 million children in school, almost every child goes to school. After 100 children coming to class 1, about 80 complete class 10. And about 80% of them pass. So don't listen to the stupid Pratham report because all about rural areas, I think is not done well. And about 56 go to class 11 and 12, 28 go to college. 28% of 18 to 23 go to college. Karnataka is 36, Tamil Nadu is 49, West Bengal is 21, Gujarat is 22, and Bihar is some 15, 16. So more and more people are going to college. We graduate 10 million people a year. We got 45 million young people in college, and we got a fantastic human capital. Are we producing enough jobs? Yes, we're producing enough jobs. Last year, as per EPFO, we had 16 million people join the EPFO, out of which about 48% were in the age group of 18 to 28. About 20% were women. All right? And that's only going to increase. And in job creation, the problem is 80% of job pay less than 25,000 rupees a month. We got to increase that. And for that, we need to make sure that we pay them more. Further, the supply has to normalize. And now with UP developing, migration to the south has come down. The whole of the south is a net job creator. You see all the support staff here, none of them are from Karnataka. They all come outside. They can't speak the local language and, service has to improve. But that's the challenge that you see. It's good they're coming here. And I think that is a nice challenge. Producing enough jobs, not high quality jobs. Now, what should we do for the future? For that, we have to reconfigure. I'm taking a little bit of time to explain, Claude. We got to reconfigure the economy. 45% of the working population of 550 million people are in agriculture. It's gone up from 42 before COVID to 45. But the good news is, out of this 45%, 63% are women, 37% are men. The percentage of men in agriculture is coming down by 1% a year for the last 5 years. And over the last 5 years, 80 million more women have come into the workforce in the rural areas. So all the leftists are saying, we're not producing jobs. Look at this, 45%. Yeah, more women are coming and working because they got self-help groups and they all reared to cattle. We are the largest milk producer, 250 million tons. And milk production is very high and that's done by women. Men are going into construction other areas. And in industry, we have possibly about 25% people and 30% in services. Okay, so we got to get people more off the land, put them into industry, and we got to put into services. We got to grow manufacturing. We're the 5th largest manufacturing power in the world. We are about $550 billion. Japan is 800. We probably overtake Japan in the next 3 to 4 years. Germany is about 850. Then China is about, I think, 4.5 trillion or 5 trillion, and America is 3.5 trillion. That will take. So in the next 3-4 years, we'll be number 3 in everything. China, United States, India. Will India overtake the US? No, not in my lifetime. I don't have a long life. Will we overtake China? No. Will it be another China? No. But we can grow. Now, what's the role of technology? Today, we have the largest software service industry in the world, 6 million people, 1.5 million, 6 million people, 6 million people, 1.5 million people work in startups and others, 7.5 million people. Out of 6 million, 60% work for American companies. In America, out of 6 million people in software, 1 million are Indians. They got 10 million people working out globally, out of which 4 million are Indians. 50% of global hiring in software is from India, outside China. So we will grow, we'll have more people working in software than America by 2030. Because every year we're hiring about 500,000 people in services, startups, everywhere else. And that is going to be the human capital. In the age of AI and robotics, the whole world work for AI will be done from India. Bangalore has 2.5 million people working in software, and we're going to have more cars than people and more vehicles than people very shortly in Bangalore, and it's the biggest center in the world for technology talent. So if you look at technology, technology is going to become a tool of production. We invest $250 billion from government into infrastructure. So the benefits of the infrastructure is coming. Productivity is going up. It is taking time. Our goods train are now traveling at 60 kilometers an hour on the western track and the eastern track as against 25 kilometers an hour earlier. So we have a backlog of infrastructure. Our logistic cost was 14% of GDP, with GST 12%. With all these roads, will come to 10%. That will give us the boost. And just 2 days back, the report came, India has the lowest manufacturing cost in the world, lower than China. So I think everything is coming together. And on the social side, because there'll be some leftist journalists here will say, oh, poverty is going up, this is going up, all the kind of nice rubbish. You know, income of everybody is going up. Some people are benefiting more. And as incomes goes up, you know, everybody will start benefiting differentially based upon where they're placed. And Modi has done one interesting thing in the last 10 years. To Modi's program, for a country of this size, the largest number of people have been removed from poverty. Poverty is now in the low single digits. All right? But you can define poverty whether it's $2 a day or $3 a day. That's different. But we've done it. What Modi has done is, he has made sure almost every Indian has a roof over the head, water in the tap, power in the switch, toilet in the house, a gas stove, a bank account, money in the bank, food on the table, a mobile phone, internet connection, health insurance and education for children, and road to the house. When everybody gets the necessities of life, they become different because they're not fighting for survival. So there is wind in the sail. And we are moving ahead. At Young India, everybody is going to work 24 into 7, 140 hours a week, whatever it is, please do work, and build this country. And I will bet 90% that in 4 or 5 years, last point, if we grow at 11% and it goes straight into GDP in dollars, we'll double in 7 years, rule of 72. Yeah. If we grow at 7.5%, 8% real, we double like last year. It will possibly double in maybe 9 years. So we will reach, you know, $7 to $8 trillion closer to 2030. And we are adding 17% of incremental GDP growth in the world. China is number 1, America, and we. And very soon this 17% could go to 20%. So all these things are coming together at a point of time which is so exciting. And it's very, very exciting to be here at this point of time and see this country grow and the world grow. And the world is facing challenges because 25% of the world's population is shrinking. The biggest challenge, the median age in Europe is about 47, Japan is 49. Yeah. China lost 2 million people last year. Japan loses 1 million people, 25 million. And if you look at population statistics, Europe is shrinking, China is shrinking, Japan is shrinking, Korea is shrinking. and the world is shrinking, India will have a young workforce till 2100 with the youngest workforce in the world.
Ooh. That
Don't stop. Continue this.
that
This is
was
the one
like
which
listening to
requires
Shankar Mahadevan's breathless
acceptance of this
performance.
kind. Lovely, sir, lovely. Wish we were recording this, because this is the biggest lesson of economics that we can learn while and teach our kids as well while growing. A small two question, supplementary question, because this is fresh in my mind. Mr. Cloud.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, there's a question there. One is 30% of the saving rates that we are having, which gives 7%, around 8% of the GDP growth rate for us. FDIs are coming in place. So we are confident to take 10%, 11% plus growth rate.
No, we don't have absorption capacity. That's not the problem. See, if we had absorption capacity, our companies will borrow from overseas, take foreign equity, and then invest that money. How do you execute? That's the problem. Just now I read that the top Indian listed companies are 10 lakh crore of surplus cash. They're all sitting, putting cash in the balance sheet and doing puja in the morning and evening before they go to bed. They have to invest. And for investment to come, they're making so much profits here, they have to export. Claude will tell you, no country in human history has grown without exporting.
Yeah.
China grew by exporting, UK grew by exporting, America grew by exporting. Our fellows are so rich and fat, they're making money here, they don't want to export, they got to tackle the global markets.
Yeah.
Because for the top 100 companies in this country, India market is too small.
Yeah.
The software industry won't be 235 billion exports if we didn't tackle the global market from 1990. So we got to export. And for that, we got to kick their butts and make them open to competition.
Yeah.
Then they will start exporting. Hopefully, the mood is changing now.
But if the population is going up, sir, then we can definitely think about from the larger consumption patterns, then the absorption power will come up. I'm like optimistic here. 10% growth rate can be possible for us.
No, it's possible provided we can. China grew at 9.5, 9.8% for 40 years. But China's savings rate is 40%. They invest 45% of GDP. They're over-invested, but that's not the model for us.
Yeah.
Our model is based upon capital efficiency.
Yep.
We have a median return of 15% on equity for all the listed companies in India. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Show me one country with 15% ROE.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Got it.
There are two things that grow countries. Labor productivity, capital productivity. We got labor productivity. We need capital. We got capital productivity. We need labor productivity. For that, we require more automation.
Yeah.
We require more productivity. We require more training, and that is slowly happening.
Lovely. And that goes to the next question, which is to Mr. Kumar, to you, is that if the technology is playing a very important role, as what Mr. Mohandas Pai was talking about, geospatial technologies, and as well as the AI, which is coming in place. And then we have a Viksit Bharat 2047 agenda. How do you view these two things are getting synergized, complementing each other, and taking the journey of $8 trillion by 2030? What's your thought process on it?
Yeah, thank you for this question. And I must say that what Mr. Mohandas Pai has spoken, I mean, he's just about a year older to me, but look at the passion and the knowledge, Google, AI, ChatGPT, everything built into one. So I will not really, I don't have that kind of data, but I'll probably talk about some concepts. Yes, it's true that GIS and AI are they're working together. There's a very good connect between these two. And when we look at growing the economy and reaching $7 to $8 trillion in next few years, there are certain sectors of economy where GIS and AI can together support growth. I would say first and foremost will be land resources. Land resources, in the country there have been programs like Swamitwa, wherein the survey of all the rural dwellings were done, and the title of those properties were given to farmers, and farmers can go and monetize that and get some loan. So once that loan comes, that property was sitting there for decades not being used, but now if they get loan and that money comes in the market, it will add to economy. Now this survey was done through drones, then it comes into GIS platform, and with AI it becomes easier to identify each property separately and then attach a dimension and title rights and all those things. So that's one play there. Second is infrastructure development. If a country is investing a lot of money in creating better roads and highway network in the country, two things happen here. One, money comes in the economy because there's a huge spending happening by the government. And second thing will happen is that logistics costs will come down. And there's a third thing also, that the movement of goods will be faster. So whatever time you save, there's an economic value attached to that. In this also, while these highway infrastructure is being created, various geospatial technologies come into play. AI comes into play in like monitoring daily progress of 60 or so kilometer highways which are being constructed in the city. If there are issue of land acquisition, which land parcel is that, who has the title, what is the dispute. So I think all those things are being done using geospatial and AI together. Third area I would say is agriculture, which is again a very big sector of economy. Here, there are a few things where technology is helping in a big way, and AI also is playing a role. Doubling farmer income and optimization of resources, the most important resource being water. Agriculture is the most, it's the largest consumer of good quality water. As much as 70% of the water actually is used in agriculture, the way our agriculture system is. Now, if that water can be saved by bringing in some efficiency, by using technology and giving insight to the farmer that when is it going to rain tomorrow? And if it's going to rain tomorrow, then you don't put water in your field because you don't need to. And you don't spray any insecticides and all that because it's going to get washed down tomorrow. So those kind of inputs can be given through mobile technology, whether it's smartphone or not a smartphone. SMS can go, different ways of reaching out to farmers are there. Other thing is about planning of crops at the state level. Divide the state into different districts, look at the soil quantity, look at the other parameters, find out which are the most optimum crops for that region, and ensure there's a balanced cultivation. All the farmers should not sow the same crop at the same time. Then you have the prices come down. And then there are a couple of states which are doing very well. I will take example of Haryana. They have set up a system wherein they do survey of all the agricultural area, and they know what's a crop being grown by a farmer, and what is the yield likely to be, what is the demand. Once that comes to the mandi, how will it be stored, where will it go? And then they monitor this crop throughout the whole cycle. Why do they do that? Because if there's a damage to the crop, then the farmer has to be compensated. So that data, the farmer settlement of the settlement of the compensation to farmer, government has mandated certain duration, and geospatial technology and AI is helping the government achieve that, because identification of damaged crop and the value based on the age of the crop is very simple. It's done matter of couple of days. Then once the crop is ready, it goes to a mandi. There's an appointment given to a farmer so that they don't have to queue up for several days and waste time and whatever else. But once they go there, it's purchased and the money is transferred to their bank directly. So there are no middlemen left. So that money which used to get filtered down from the chain, that's gone. So it's going to help in farmers' income. And once the income goes up, it again comes back in the economy.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things. Then education is another big area where I think we have the new national education policy, and there are other different initiatives being taken by government. But the challenge still remains that when somebody in most colleges, when they come out, employability is still a challenge. They are not ready to be employed in industry. So there is a need to continuously update the curriculum. Wherever today I see that the most relevant subject for us is postgraduate degree in geoinformatics, but curriculum has not been upgraded for a long time. The geo AI and other AI stuff that we talk it's not being taught deep enough, maybe just a little bit of exposure. So I think those areas that also has to be taken into account
Got
while
it.
doing this.
So I think you're saying about the land resources, optimal utilization of land resources, agriculture productivity, logistic cost going down, using the geospatial and AI, and has an impact on the economic value, which will help us to reach to $8 trillion economy on this part. And largely talking about of 700 million population staying in rural areas, which is another huge potential for these technologies giving some services of this kind, be the farmer, be the education, be the market, and bring that up. And that leads to the question to Madan, to you, right? 700 million population, 600, 700 million population staying in rural areas. Almost internet connectivity is 50-50. 50% urban, 50%, 60-40 or 65-45, roughly there. Almost the mobile phone acceptability is there right now. Optical fibers has reached to Panchayati Raj institutions all across the country. This rural economy, in my view, can play a very important role for an $8 trillion $8 trillion economy. Can you elaborate a little bit more from your experiences of doing so much work in the rural fields, that how this can be translated in the journey and what are the initiatives that can be done, and maybe some suggestions that you want to give some entrepreneurs to look at, some opportunities that can come across on this point. Over to you, Madan.
Sure. Thanks, Sanjeev. Good afternoon. Elrigu namaskara. Again, I was just saying, Mohan, it was like listening to Shankar Mahadevan's breathless performance. It left all of us breathless, for sure. Just to pick that up point and just be inspired by Mohan, let me get into a little bit of numbers. We all, of course, know the GDP of India. It is in our face every day, 3.944 trillion. That number is a growing number. I use this example because it rhymes with India, but there's a district called Mandya, right? How many of you heard of this district between Bangalore and Mysore called Mandya? It's about 100 kilometers from here. Can anybody in the room guess the district GDP of Mandya? Any guesses? Wild guess. Some number that comes to your mind. 100 million. Okay. Let's say 100 million, yeah. What, 5,000 crores, yeah. 7,000 crores. Lesser than that. 600, 700 crores. Yeah. Any other number? Bigger, smaller?
20,000 crores?
20,000 crores. Okay. As per the Karnataka Economic Census report of 22-23, 2 years ago, Mandya's GDP, and Mandya is a typical district with about 22 lakh people. Mandya's district GDP was 53,000 crores. Right? The poorest district in Karnataka, one of the poorest districts, Yadgir, with a population of around 14 lakh people, Yadgir's GDP was 22,000 crores. Right? Again, if you compare 2016 numbers of Karnataka census report, economic census, Mandya's GDP in 2016 was 24,000 crores. So it's doubled in about 6-7 years. Right? And of course, Mandya is a prosperous district, Kaveri belt, sugar and all that, but there's nothing dramatically special about Mandya. This is true for all the districts of Karnataka, right? If you then look at the future and say, if it's going to again double in the next 7-8 years, 2030-31, Mandya itself will be a 100,000 crore economy, right? That is the size of around 6 Bhutans. Just in one district, right? Now look at the possibility. If we were to then bring in all the wonderful digital technologies that we are talking about, if we were to organize stuff better, if we were to make labor more productive, things more efficient with all the techs that we can bring, and sometimes I think we pat ourselves in the back for creating 100 odd unicorns, which is great, but if there is a 50,000 crore addition to the economy that's happening, I think every district can create 2, 3, 5 unicorns, because you can build 50, 100, 200, 300 crore businesses over the next 7-8 years. The fact is that Bangalore, of course, we have the Bangalore effect, which is like, 40% of the state's GDP, right? And it crowds in everything else. But the work that I've done over the last 10 years by building rural supply chains, markets in rural, there is tremendous aspiration. Smartphone penetration is at 60-70%. Every young person, recently we did a survey of government college students. to say how many of you have access to smartphones, and it was at a whopping 84%, right? Two, there is talent. The foundation that I run, we go into the poorest of the villages, we see tremendous talent, they don't have capabilities and opportunity to express it. If we train them enough, we can make them hugely transformative in terms of participating in the economy. There is tech, and there is, I argue that in rural there is much more entrepreneurial resilience than in urban, because we face much more adversities there, right? So I think it requires a reimagining of the rural economy. I call it the rural-urban economy, and therefore Ruben, that if we can bring the power of understanding aspirations, talent, technology, and entrepreneurial spirit, we can create a new rural. I'll just end with an example. About 2 years ago, I met a company that was trying to sell EVs in this in Karnataka, and we picked up a small village called Kathanalli, which is about 10,000 people, and we immediately started thinking the traditional thing, right? Let's put up a 500 square foot showroom, hire 3 people. We will showcase some 10 EVs and stuff like that. And then we thought, why shouldn't we think differently? So in about 3 months, we had created a metaverse where we had showcased the EVs inside the metaverse. We brought to bear about 10 small kirana stores, mobile repair shops, trained them on the metaverse. We actually set up a metaverse mall for EVs on Oculus Quest 2 headsets. We had consumers coming in, farmers, housewives coming in and seeing the EVs in the metaverse. And of course, every 15 days, we organize a test drive in the village. In about 3 months, we had 11,000 people who had experienced the EVs inside the metaverse. Most of them had held an Oculus Quest 2 headset for the first time. I mean, all of them. And 800 inquiries for test drives. We converted about 700 into test drives. And in 3 months, we had sold 40 EVs with 0 investments. And our entrepreneurs had made about 20,000-30,000 rupees in that process, right? So I think the rural economy needs to be reimagined. A lot of us need to go out there, figure out how do we participate in that growth. And I think if we come together, I think to your point, if each of the districts, 700 odd districts in the country, if each can pull in between $6 to $8 billion of GDP, we can see almost $5 to $6 trillion coming in from our non-metro cities itself. And then you add the powerhouses of a Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, whatever, a $10 trillion economy seems very feasible, but we have to imagine it this way.
Lovely. I think the example that you quote is that how technology can actually help not only just to reduce the cost, but also increase the serving potential for the larger areas to the farmer community, women community at large, and inspire them to come on to more use of the technology for their respective businesses.
Exactly.
Well, I think that goes on. But if you see, we all three, including me, are little biased towards India. We has to be biased. Not only 8, we go for $10 trillion. Cloud, you see the macro level picture that Mr. Mohandas Pai talked about. Is the technology play which is coming out from Mr. Kumar. The rural economy has a potential. I'm confident. You see the world very different lens. From different angles of your last 40, 50 years of your career as well. You have seen many countries differently going up. What is your firm view about the $8 to $10 trillion or $8 billion for India, and what challenges that you see from the outside lens to us? And maybe want to recommend something for us to look at it.
So first of all, two, I would say, small warnings to you. First of all, I am speaking from the perspective of a very strong friend of India who is bullish about India's prospect. That is point number one. Point number two, I will never in my life, and what is the rest of my life expectancy, never reach only 1/10 of the oratory talent of my dear friend Mohan. And so I know that it is a little bit risky to come with my points after him. So you have to take that into consideration. So as an observer, and back to the key question, what needs to be done to get to $8 trillion by 2030? I think there are, looking at what is happening elsewhere, there are, in my view, 5 key points. Point number 1, and Mohan said, no country has grown without exporting. But to export, you cannot just export software. The US can afford to have 7% of GDP coming from industry because it is a post-industrial economy. India cannot afford to be a country where the share of industry is only around 18% of GDP. There is no way on earth that a country can achieve this level of development with such a meager share of industry at this stage of development in its GDP. China today, the industry share of GDP is about 36%, and it has declined because China is evolving more and more into services. But 18%, no way. And in addition, back to the point of Mohan, you need to export, but you cannot export enough if you have this, I would say, meager industrial base for a country the size, and more importantly than the size, the potential of India. So that is, in my view, point number 1. Point number 2, India doesn't spend enough on research and development. India was stuck for many years at about 65 or 68% of GDP on research and development. It has made some progress. I think the estimate today would be around 1.2%. But this compares with China, which is at 2.68%, with a much larger GDP. But even more important than that, let us face it, we have a corporate India which is very shy about, very pinchy about spending on research and development, because corporate India prefer the facility solution of buying technology instead of creating it. You should know that only 38% of R&D spending in India comes from the private sector. This is not a sustainable situation if you want to achieve the ambitious goal that, I repeat, India has the potential to achieve. Then, point number 3. You cannot get into the stage of development without putting much more attention in creating efficient supply chain. The big miracle, the big success factor of China is that it has created supply chain whose efficiency no country in the world can compete with China in terms of efficiency of supply chain. No country in the world. This is why, whatever Mr. Trump can say, India will continue to export and be successful at exporting products. But to do that, India needs to pay much more attention. It is doing it, but it needs much more to pay more attention to small and medium-sized companies, because they are the very fabric of creating efficient supply chains. That is really important. And the problem in India is that still many of these medium and small-sized companies are not yet into the quote-unquote registered economy. And so there has to be a big effort to integrating them into the quote-unquote official economy. Then you get to another point, which is network. India, for a country of its importance and its size, doesn't have an international network commensurate to its size and to its importance. India doesn't have enough of a network of free trade agreements. Now the government has woken up to that, and you are trying to catch up, and this is very important. But one missing piece in the puzzle, and again, it is not for me to advise about what is good or what is bad for India. This is only the privilege of Indian decision maker. But looking at it from the outside, I do honestly believe, as a big supporter of India, that it was a big strategic mistake for India not to join the comprehensive regional economic partnership. And the reason why was, of course, because it was an initiative from China. But don't forget, this is the way to connect with the most dynamic, the most important in terms of growth part of the world for as long as the eye can see. And so India has left the whole space empty for China. And what is happening today is that you are not talking of China as a 1.4 or 1.3 million competitor. You are talking about China, which is 2.2 billion people. Because every day there is more de facto integration in terms of technology, financial flow, transportation, infrastructure, people-to-people connection. And so I think India has to increase and expand its network because it is crucial. And again, back to Expo, the very important point of Mohan. So this is something very important. And the last point that I want to make, and Mohan, you told me recently that India is rich in talent. You're right. And it is poor on financial resources. I beg to differ with you. India has, you mentioned 30,000 tons, like the official figure, so I think you are right. The official figure is 27,000 tons, which is more of gold in India, more gold than the most richest 5 countries in the world. Of course, this gold is not only for looking beautiful, it is also to save as a resource for rainy days, to be used as a collateral for loans. But you have a lot of money under the mattress. The question, and India has a high rate of saving, very high rate. How do you mobilize these resources to be injected into the economy? What can be done more? Of course, now you have a big asset, which is a very strong fintech sector, which has integrated financially a huge proportion of the population. How, in a way, to use this fintech development, which is a tremendous asset, not only to have people, customers, pay with their cell phone when they buy something, but also more and more to use their money, their savings, their asset to inject into the economy. Of course, you need to create trust, you need to create a number of things, but I think this is a challenge which is worth attending to because it is very important. I will stop here. And again, I don't want to rain on the parade, but I think There are so many assets, and Mohan has illustrated that tremendously well as Kumar and Madan, so that in a way what I am saying is, yes, the assets are here. How to leverage them more rapidly, more efficiently, because 2030 is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Claude. I think very important perspective that you brought in, with your 5 pointers. How do we increase the share of industry from mere 18% to at least go to 30%? Looking at the R&D investments to go up to 3%, if possible, from current 1%. Looking at these robust supply chain that we need to create for support the industry growth that we're looking at it. Networks of the countries with some free trade agreements that we want to plug in. And I think the last point you're talking about is these last resources that we have, the assets that we have, how we leverage to monetize that much faster than we can, in the incoming years. All those 5 points are very, very valid. We'll have a supplementary questions later if the time permits. At this point in time, I want to open the floor for the audience to ask questions to this powerful panel here. We'll pick up at least 4 or 5. If there is quickly one, mics can be there around. Please raise your hand if you have a question right now here at this stage. Otherwise, I will pick up the name which I know very well sitting there in the crowd to ask the question. Mr. Ralph.
My question is again, if you look at in the next
Second
2 to 3 decades, there is a major chunk of investment.
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Kundan and I'm an energy transition consultant. So what I understand is that in the next 3 decades, most of the countries are going for net zero investment. And energy transition is a critical component in that particular investment. At this point in time, China is investing, if I'm not wrong, in 2024, $880 billion US. India is $40 billion US. China holds the supply chain of energy transition, green energy transition, close to 80%, okay, across all elements. Now, considering India and considering AI has a critical component of energy. So how exactly India is going to evolve in that journey?
Pick up by Anman.
Look, India has got about 235 gigawatts of alternate energy. About, I think, 14 to 16% of energy is now coming from alternate energy. And just last week, for the first time in our history, the power traded from alternate energy on the energy exchange came to zero. The surplus power never happened in India before. By 2030, we'll take this up to 500 gigawatts. All right. But the problem is that we have to build transmission networks. We have to build balancing power, because this alternate energy in solar, which is the largest growing part, is only in the daytime. And maybe we have to build storage. It's going to be extremely expensive. So what happens, I think, is by 2030, maybe we'll have 28% of energy as alternate energy from solar and wind, maybe 10% from hydel, and the balance will still be coal. Coal was 70%, it may probably come to maybe 55, 60% as a balancing load. And in coal, we have to go to supercritical technology where there's a conversion factor of 45%. We are now having a conversion factor of 25% of energy of the coal into electricity. So there has to be a lot of change. So I think there's a lot of progress. So look, China is not an example for any part of the world. Okay? We can talk about China, nobody can match China. China has solar module capacity 3 times the world's demand. 3 times. They sell their solar cell at 4 cents per cell in America and other places. We are exporting to America at 10 cents till Trump shut down the entire system because we knew how to make money. So I think the world will move towards that. Europe is today fully outside coal, I think. UK was outside coal for the first time in 200 years last year. And I think by 2030, the world's share of alternate energy may go up to 25-30%. But what is happening in India, which is very interesting, is that the energy requirement per unit of GDP growth is coming down. If growth goes up by 7%, energy is not growing at 7%, at 10%. Theory was that if it grows at 7%, energy should grow at 1.2, 1.3%. Now I think it's growing at less than the growth in GDP. That means a lot of the efficiency is coming in. Will we go to net zero? Well, Prime Minister said 2070, but then we all know that many of us are not going to be around. China said 2060. I don't know whether Xi will be around or the people who made the promises, but I think there's a tremendous movement towards that.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? We have okay, please. Before we start, Rohit and our chairman, Mr. B.V. Naidu and Ralph, I'm requesting you to raise a question, so please prepare your thoughts on it. Over to you, sir.
To me?
Yes, sir.
Purushottam Ban, professor at RV Institute of Management. A lot of innovations, R&D is happening in other sectors, technological sectors. But when we actually go into rural pockets, like Madan was saying, we hardly see, or maybe barring few exceptions, not great innovations coming into the fields, into the agricultural fields. I think that's one hotspot area which we all should look into and try to address that, because somewhere, like Mohan sir was also saying, people are going back to the fields, right? And 63% women and 37% men. So when they will be empowered, right, then we could see a lot of exports happening, okay, because it's a tropical country. We have been blessed with that climate, soil conditions and weather conditions.
Yeah.
But how could we make money out of it, right? So that is my question to all of you, and would like to know your views on that. So thank you, sir.
Look, I'm sorry, I'm answering because I know the answer. Look, the problem in agriculture is, barring cereals, which is 33% of agricultural output, farmers don't get more than 45-50% of the retail price. The most important thing that should happen today is to connect farmers who sells fruits and vegetables, which is 14% of agricultural output, animal husbandry and all that, and spices, to markets so they get 10-15% more. If the farmers are able to get 10-15% more, they will double production. So a farmer is an entrepreneur who knows what to do. In good years, when the price goes up, agriculture produce goes up, nobody is giving them more inputs. There is no more technology happening, nothing is happening. They're responding to price impulses because they make more money. And we export $60 billion of agricultural output. We have to export maybe 100, 150. We exported 27 million tons of rice 2 years back till we shut it down. Last year we exported maybe 15 million. We produce about 354 million tons of food grain this year. We are a surplus exporter. So we must create markets for export of much of our thing. That will take away the surplus production here and give better prices. Once you are able to get better prices, to me that's the biggest reform that's required. How to make sure the farmers get more money for what they produce by linking them to consumers through agri-tech startups, by having this better supply chain, and by creating institutions which will buy for export, creating export demand, and if there is demand, creating the wherewithal for export. Able to do that, that reform will really make farmers' income go up and take the whole economy up. I think to me that is the most important thing, and we're still struggling.
Maybe just to come at it with a slightly different perspective completely with you, Mohan. See, the challenge is, take agriculture and innovations in agriculture. The last 5-7 years, we've come out with so many different initiatives, projects, pilots to doubling farmers' income, tripling farmers' income. It's all happening, but it's all happening in their own islands, right? So sometimes they say that India is a graveyard of successful pilots. Many pilots, but we are not able to see a scale rollout of these pilots because last mile is still a challenge, right? How do you take technologies and initiatives to work in every village? There are 600,000-700,000 villages in the country. That problem we need to solve, and to an extent coming from an education institution, I think there is an opportunity to create last mile entrepreneurs who will take technologies like this and spread it across their own local environments, and we need to create a system for that to happen, right? And I think that's something that all of us need to work together on. Otherwise, reinventing the same wheel over and over again. We were recently talking to one the new Center of Excellence for Agriculture in AI, 330 crores to an IIT given to build AI for agriculture, and that's a hell of a lot of money. So imagine the amount of projects that would be happening now, but how do you create a distribution and a last mile mechanism to reach the last farmer out there, I think is the bigger challenge than, blindly innovating for the sake of innovation.
Yeah. Okay. The complementary questions we take up later. Any other questions? Okay. I request our chair, Mr. B.V. Naidu, to put up a question.
Yeah, hi. I'm the other Madan from TAI Bangalore. My question is, sorry.
Go ahead. Tom.
My question is, what are some educational reforms you would suggest to make Indian youth more, I guess, employable, more entrepreneurial, and more able to get with this global mindset?
Look, the biggest reform that should happen is to give full autonomy to our top 200 universities, freedom to grow, freedom to have courses of their choice, and freedom to innovate in the educational process. Give them full freedom by having a reform to say UGC AICTE norm shall be guiding principles and not mandatory.
Not mandatory.
Yeah.
And give them freedom. If they're able to do that, they will change themselves and they will grow.
Yep.
That's the biggest reform we can bring. But government doesn't want to lose control. The control aspect where somebody who is smart in government 40 years ago will decide what you have to do is the biggest stumbling block. We need autonomy, we need academic freedom for our top 200 universities. If you don't trust the top 200 universities, whom are you going to trust? You're trusting the future of your children to teachers and faculty. You're trusting them.
Yeah.
They're educating your future. So if you don't give them full autonomy, what is the point? That's what is in the NEP that has to be implemented. If that is implemented, that's the biggest reform. Rest of it all, forget about it. They know how to use technology.
Yeah.
They're very smart. They know AI. They know all the nice stuff you and I know.
Yeah.
If
remember.
if I may add a point here, I think India is not using enough the resources of linking with academic centers of excellence in the world. I agree 600% with Mohan when we say that India should not imitate China. India needs just to take into consideration the size and capacity of its competitor. But it has its own way because it has its own culture. So it is not a question of imitating. But at some stage, you need to have this kind of accelerator, multiplier impact that China has used, neglecting ideology and allowing campuses of foreign universities.
Yeah.
And I do believe that there are, and even if I look at my own country, Switzerland, which is small, but we have quite a number of academic excellence in the world, I think there is tremendous potential and there is interest because people realize that there is an innovation potential which keep growing every month in India. And so I think this element should be much more cultivated, again, as an accelerator and a multiplier.
Yeah. Just to maybe, sorry, go ahead, Kumar. Yeah.
A shorter answer, gentlemen. Mr. Kumar, shorter answer.
So just see, education is definitely one part, and what Mohandas Pai said, that top 200 universities, I fully agree with that. But I believe that we still do not have enough educational institutes in the country to take care of all the youth population. And in order to make them more employable, I think skilling is also a place where you teach them enough, maybe 10th grade, 12th grade, and then you let them learn some vocational programs. And I think today what happens is many of those programs we do not have a certification. You just go and learn from somebody else and start working. So quality suffers and the income doesn't go up. So if we can get some certification for electrical, plumbers, draftsmen, all those people, I think there'll be another way of them to come into main employment, the line of employment without getting college degrees.
Madan, you have point here.
Just to make
otherwise-
a quick point and one action item. One, just connecting to what Claude was talking about MSMEs, right? So 68, 70 million MSMEs. How many of our students actually engage with local MSMEs and try and figure out what problems, how to solve? Do we invite MSMEs into the colleges to work and to get practical experience? That is a part of the NEP, but it has to be implemented in spirit. And to that extent, autonomy has to be given to the thing. The last point, especially for this group, how many of you visited a college and spoken to students in the last 3 months, and not as a part of your normal work? Very few hands going up, right? So how do we engage this group and the professionals who are out there in some form or the other to engage with college students, to inspire them even virtually or whatever? I think that engagement is very critical, else we will all be operating in our own cocoons and silos.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, this question to Mohan, of course. You know, I'm very, very sure that we are not 8 trillion, we will be 9 trillion by 2030 and 40 trillion by 2047. And we all feel proud that we are part of this journey, and, you know, in the tech economy, we play a major role, etc., etc. But we all believed in the country for last 40, 50 years, and we lived here not leaving the country. But there are 3 things which really bothers me on a daily basis. Number 1, can we get to this democratizing the economy to the rural? Can we achieve that? Can we do this per capita income, probably $25,000 by 2047? Can we achieve that? That's number 1. Number 2, I don't see solution to our urban infrastructure. You know, it really pisses all of us off. Do we see a nearby solution for that? And number 3, the other botheration is this political system with the social schemes and the corruption. Do you see any solution for these 3 problems?
You know, in rural areas, my view is very simple. You must focus on increasing the income of people who live in rural areas. We must find out what do they produce, what happens there. 1, for agriculture products, how do they get a higher price? By cutting out middlemen, connecting them to markets, to agri-techs, you can really do that. We must do it at scale. Or that train the children of farmers to use technology because they're younger. And that will happen because we got a lot of agri-techs and we can do that. It'll take a few years, but I think there's something that you must do on a mass scale. Second thing what you must do is, we must incentivize labor-intensive industries to go to rural areas. Bangalore has clawed 500,000 people working, making garments. There is no labor here. They get labor, they kidnap labor from rural areas, put them here in a room where 5 sit in a double, in a 5 beds, and they work here and get money. Why can't you incentivize the creation of garments and labor-intensive industries in a 400 poorest districts by giving an incentive program? Create special employment zones. If you're able to do that, you'll create demand there, and that will grow. Third, invest in the small 5,000 towns in India, called the census towns. Urban areas are aggregation of human activity. Aggregation of human activity leads to specialization. Specialization increases productivity. Higher productivity leads to higher income. So we have to grow these small towns, 5,000 small towns, by investing money. Give them 10-20 crores a year to invest, create a good infrastructure, people will come there, surrounding areas, create industry. We need a very focused industrial program there. And in urban areas, what is the problem? Governance. Governance, we have to improve, and there are challenges, and unless the courts function, it won't work. We have to focus on public transport. The biggest challenge in all our cities is there's not enough public transport. There's a famous slide with Tokyo, right? Tokyo, only about maybe 5-7% of people use private transport, rest go on public transport. Here, only 20% of people go on public transport. Our metro is 77 kilometers, 150 kilometers being built. We got to do that. We got to focus on public transport. India should have about maybe 1 million electric buses for the next 10 years in all the cities like China did to improve transportation. Put more money into metro, complete the metro projects. If people are able to move about in the cities, it solves too many problems because productivity goes up. So that is the key. But what is the saving grace? Now, this is a very important thing, Claude. You see, the seats in parliament and the state legislature was frozen for 30 years based upon the census of 1991. Why? Because it was done based upon the census of 71 by Indira Gandhi during the emergency. And then they increased it and said for 30 years, 91, 2001, 2000 level, 2021. It was frozen. All right, now we are going to have a census. When it was frozen, urban areas were 21% of population. The seed for urban areas were 21%. So we had representatives coming from so-called rural areas who take our money and put it down the deep, big hole of giving subsidies. $110 billion, 9 lakh crores goes as subsidies every year for the state and center. We spent maybe 70, 80,000 crores on R&D.
Yeah.
We should spend more money on education R&D than giving subsidies.
Yeah.
Why do they do that? Because that's democracy. You give subsidies, you get. Recently, we give 200,000 crores. That's about $25 billion for DBT for women. 60% of women in Karnataka get monthly money from the government. 60% are not poor, but they give it. Why? They're giving money. We are the great people who distribute money. So now, when the census happens by 27, you'll find the urban population has gone to 40-45%. That means more seats will go to urban areas. So urban areas governance and improvement will happen because there's more political power in urban areas. Bangalore, which is 20% of population, gets 10% of the seats in the legislature. That will go to 20%. And it goes 20%, urban goes to 60%. Immediately they will invest because in a democracy, politicians respond to the electorate. If more people in urban areas, the seats are more, they will invest. So that transformation gives me hope.
Thank you. Okay, last question, Rohit. You have any questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, Rohit Bhatt here. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but from a emerging city. So my question, while we're talking about 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 30 trillion and all, which region will this growth come from on? Specifically, every other country, urbanization contributed to the growth. But in India, with a 1.4 billion population, if 40% or 60% goes there, you can imagine what's already happened now within all our metros. Is it sustainable? Don't you think we should have a strategy of creating the next 100 big cities in the country rather than just focusing on the top 10 cities, which is happening now?
Rohit, we must focus on smaller cities. We must invest in the 5,000 small towns. We must improve there so that people get all good facilities. If I stay in a village, I commute 10 kilometers, I get a very good hospital, I get a very good college, that's fantastic, right? I don't have to commute 50 kilometers. Why will I come to Bangalore? I will get jobs there, I'll have a good quality of life, and the roads connectivity has improved. So we must focus on the 5,000 small town, which we are not. We're focusing on the 600,000 villages, out of which 100,000 don't even exist. The money goes there, the money is going down the hole. So we have to refocus our objectives, urbanize. No country has urbanized, has grown rich without urbanization. China is 60% urban. The world is 52% urban. We are still maybe 40-45% urban now after so many years. So we have to urbanize because human civilization can only grow rich with urbanization. Then the amount of people, 45% in agriculture, should come down to maybe 20% or 10%. China has 10% population agriculture, America has 3%. Not even 3%, you can't even count that. You understand? So we have to grow this. We have to push industry to rural areas where they can use surplus labor to produce labor-intensive goods. We incentivize capital than labor in a labor surplus country. We set up a refinery, you get all incentives. You set up a garment factory hiring 50,000 people, the inspector will come and harass you every single day. Incentivize jobs, incentivize labor, not incentivize capital. I think now that wisdom is coming.
Just to add, I think Dr. Kalam was bang on when he proposed the idea of Pura. Providing urban amenities to rural areas. It's still very much valid. On paper, there's a lot that needs to be done. And the other part to Mohan's point was, I was also arguing recently at some think tank conference where I was saying, you should scrap this whole rural development ministry and actually call it like the Ministry for Local Economic Development. Right? Each of these 5,000 towns can spur economic development in a 30-kilometer or a 50-kilometer radius covering maybe 100-odd villages. That economy needs to be developed to make it aspirational and sustainable for people to stay there. I think we need to reimagine and reorganize the way we are thinking about things.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you then finish it off. Finished?
Yeah.
No, that's point taken up. Is there any question from a lady leader, woman executive? Otherwise, I'll pick up a name by myself. Anyone? Okay? I request you to read the question to us. You? No?
No.
Yeah?
She.
Go ahead.
Thank you for picking me. My name is Margot. So with events like new president elected to a country deciding on network FTA, or deciding that, okay, no, let me come again. So imagine you have a president, let's take the news, okay, of a very superpower country that is deciding to change every trade and agreement between countries. How do you deal for a country like India to manage the exponential growth with knowing that you have to play an international role, but still be able to rely on your own capacities? Does that make sense?
Partly. The question is that the exponential growth that India is looking at it, how do you see the complex environment across these countries which is coming across? Will it impact positively, negatively?
I think the global environment is hostile to growth right now.
Sorry, can you come again?
The global environment is very hostile to growth.
Exactly.
Yeah, is hostile to growth because of a very important reason. This decade, we'll see the shift of growth from the OECD to the emerging markets. For the first time in 30, 40 years, we have China as a competitor to the United States in growth. China is bigger in PPP than the United States. China's spending in technology is matching the United States. They are much ahead of the US in AI and other things. And the US is now trying to build walls to prevent China from growing up, and there's a trade friction. And that's not going to go away because the US dollar still rules the world, US still rules the world, but China is a huge competitor. And despite what Klaus says, trade with China will hollow out your economy. The whole of Southeast Asia economy is getting hollowed out by China because Chinese are dumping. China is a mercantilist economy. It had $1 trillion of trade goods surplus last year. This year in the first month, they had $100 billion. They export their way out. They don't import. India has got $100 billion trade hole with China because just not able to sell. And they do it at scale at a price which nobody can match because they subsidize. So there is this trade war. And in that, Europe is going nowhere. Europe average median age is 45 years. Europe will not able to grow. They got social problems. They got political problems. They got all kind of things. There is no innovation happening there. Young people, from whatever I know, are not innovating enough. If you look at all the technology companies, we don't find anybody big apart from SAP, which is a legacy. So Europe has got a problem. So there is the United States, there is China, and China is a hegemon, which is very different. They work very differently. They steal your technology, they suck up all your brains, and they're very focused, they're very sure where they want to go. And America is not sure where they want to go, because except that Trump knows where he wants to go for the next 1 year. And that's interesting. So we got this complex problem to solve, and that is not helping global growth. Europe is not growing too fast. US is growing. Whether it will grow with all the Trump, we don't know. Claude will tell you. China is growing, but China growth is for China. They will increase the trade surplus to $1.5 trillion. Southeast Asia doesn't know what to do. The Chinese are now coming with BYD to Europe, to compete, and all these big auto companies in Germany are very scared because they wiped out the auto companies of Japan in Southeast Asia. They wiped them out in the Middle East. Just now, it's terrible. They wiped it out, and BYD will possibly be the biggest auto company in the world in the next 2 years. So if you look at all this, external environment is hostile, is very difficult, so it's going to impact India. Maybe 1 or 2% of growth will come down in India because the growth is there in the economy. All of us will grow together.
So what does India learn from this?
India?
Yeah.
What?
What does India learn from this?
Will India learn from this?
What does?
We are trying to learn because Trump has told India, no deal till you reduce tariff. We're going to reduce tariff. We're going to have zero tariff for American goods. Now the EU is coming, and we're going to tie up with the EU. Because we should tie up with America and EU long back. Japan grew rich because of trade with America. China grew rich because of trade with America. We foolishly sat on the behind and didn't do things in America, put up tariffs. We put that 150% stupid tariff for Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson will sell some 500,000 vehicles. Let them come and sell. What does it matter? Let Tesla come and sell. He'll sell 200,000 cars, 500,000 cars. We buy 4.3 million cars. If Tesla sells, our technology will go up. It's foolishness sitting in Delhi because our industrialists want protection to make more money and exploit us. You understand? So we have to fight these battles in a democracy. Is India learning? Yes. Because Trump is now turning the screws. We'll sign a deal with Trump, right? We got to sign this month end or he'll increase tariff. And Trump is a great disruptor. He's an unbelievable man, disruptor. You got to sign. EU will come and we want EU. And together we got to make sure China doesn't swallow all of us. India is learning.
Hold on. I don't want audience to provoke more now. Thank you so much. Want to change this topic before I do something else. 30 seconds. IGIC, this is the 4th edition. What you will see in the 5th edition, just 30 seconds of Shom, how do you see the 5th edition should be like? Just a lighter question to change the mood, coming out of the hardcore economics, purely looking at the professional approach that if I want to succeed in 5th edition, what will be your recommendation? Mr. Kumar.
Have some more fun in this event rather than just talking about economy and economy.
Madan, 5th edition of IGSE should look like what?
Let's broaden the horizons. Let's bring in more fun entertainment. Shah Rukh Khan, Deepika Padukone.
Yes, sir. Over to you.
No, I think we should bring in global strategy for business. How does Indian business become global and what is the strategy they have to use? Because I think we have to tackle global markets. Second, technology has to be there because we're going to see the impact of all this next year. And third, geopolitics. I think these 3 things should go together, woven in the brilliance that Claude is able to do.
Thank you. Before you respond, because you are the host, so I'm going to respond myself on this, right? Then you can comment on this. I would prefer to, with Madan and this, to make this event a 2-day residential program somewhere outside, within the neighborhood of Bangalore, right? And you can do that nicely done, because I want audience to be 100% devoted here, looking at a conversation and committing something and partnering to something else. So maybe that's what I will visualize maybe next edition, if you can try that.
Action coming out.
Absolutely.
Talk, yeah.
For 2 days we are there together. Now over to you.
Yes, I think 2 or 3 elements. First element, I think we need to focus more next year on the element of India becoming also a country which doesn't export services and software, but export innovation made in India products to the world. This is beginning to happen. We need to see how we can contribute to accelerate that in terms of policies, in terms of how to support startups which are getting into this field. So that is point number 1. Point number 2, I think we need to increase what we started to do last year and what we have done this year, which is added value, small group, private discussions.
Yeah.
We had the workshop yesterday with Nir Koren on how do you improve your ability to innovate using AI. We had today the private roundtable of family offices and so on and so forth. We have had 5 or 6 brainstormings, sector-related brainstorming, small group, and it has proved to be quite well organized. Point number 3, we have started this year and we will continue to expand next year. We need to expand the participation of academics, top academics from India. We need to have them here, we need to have them play a role, and we need to try to bring more academics from outside of India. I think this is important because from this interaction, you can create some kind of impact for developing knowledge connection. Last but not least, we need to continue fighting to increase foreign participation. And this is very crucial because, as you know, from the very beginning, it was the notion of integrating the India dimension, the global dimension, and to a very clear purpose, connecting knowledge, creating synergy. This is what we are all about.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you would like to appreciate this powerful panel. I have learned so much today. Economics, rural economy, technology, geospatial and global perspective. I have become a fan of all of you. Lovely gentlemen for being here. Thank you so much for this. Big hand applause for all of them. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sanjeev, for a lovely moderation.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind everybody that we still have 2 sessions, and we're going to do a quick change of the stage, and we'll be ready in about 3 minutes with the next session.